I never thought I'd be one of those women, telling her life story to strangers on the internet. But here I am. Maybe I just need someone to listen. Someone who doesn't already have an opinion about me. I'm 67 years old, a widow, and a mother of one. For most of my life, I believed that family was everything, the one thing that never leaves you. I worked 2 cleaning jobs for over 30 years to make sure my daughter had everything I thought love and sacrifice were enough to earn a place in someone's heart. Turns out, I was wrong. A few months ago, something happened that cracked my world open in a way I didn't know was possible. It didn't come with sirens or shouting. Just a quiet ping from my phone and a picture that changed everything. This is the story of how I found out my daughter got married without me, and what I did after. It started like any other Tuesday morning. I woke up around 6, made myself a cup of coffee, and sat down at the kitchen table. The same spot where I've sat every morning for the past 30 years. I scrolled through Facebook while waiting for the caffeine to kick in photos of babies, people's breakfast, political nonsense, the usual, and then I saw it. A picture that made my hand freeze midair. My phone almost slipped out of my fingers. It was my daughter, Hope, in a wedding dress. White, simple, elegant, the kind of dress I always imagined she'd wear. Though I pictured I'd be the one zipping it up for her, fixing her veil, crying like a fool in the front row. But instead, I was seeing it through a screen. She was standing next to a man, Devin, her boyfriend. Well, I guess husband now. Behind them were his parents, Franklin and Eleanor Hayes, all smiles. Polished and perfect, like people who never have to check a price tag. The caption said, "Our special day. Family complete. Family complete." I stared at those 2 words until they started to blur. My heart dropped, and I remember thinking, how the hell can family be complete without me? I sat there for a long time, just breathing. My coffee went cold. My hand was shaking so badly I had to set the mug down. Then I picked up my phone and called her. She answered on the second ring. "Hey mama," she said, all casual, like we were just chatting about groceries or the weather. "Hope," I said, trying to sound calm. "Did you get married?" There was a pause, not long, but long enough for me to hear cars and footsteps and someone laughing nearby. "Yeah," she finally said. Yesterday, like it was nothing. Like she was telling me she bought a new pair of shoes. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "Why wasn't I invited?" "It was just a small thing, Mama. Only family." Only family. That one hurt. Like someone had reached inside my chest and pulled something loose. I wanted to say something sharp, something like, "I must have missed the memo where I got kicked out of the family." But all I managed was a quiet, "Oh." She said she had to go. They were running errands or catching a flight or something. I don't even remember what excuse she gave. I just remember the way she said it. So light, so distant, like I was just another name in her contacts list. After she hung up, I sat there in the silence, staring at the picture on my screen. Her smile looked different to me now, too wide, too staged. Devin's hand was on her waist. His parents stood behind them, beaming like they'd just won a prize. And I guess they did. They got a new daughter, the one I raised. I deleted the photo, but it didn't matter. The image was burned into my mind. You know what's funny? When you lose someone to death, people show up. They bring food, flowers, hugs, sympathy. But when you lose someone who's still alive, there's nothing, just silence. No one knocks on your door when your child decides you're no longer part of their life. I sat there for hours, replaying everything in my head. Every birthday, every scraped knee, every night I stayed up sewing clothes or working double shifts, so she could have more than I ever did. I remembered her first day of school. She'd clung to my leg and cried, saying, "Don't go, Mama." And now she'd gone off and started a whole new life without me. At some point, I started laughing. I don't know why. Maybe because it was so absurd. I'd spent 28 years giving everything I had, my time, my health, my marriage, my dreams, and my reward was finding out through Facebook that I wasn't invited to my own daughter's wedding. It wasn't a big cry, not at first. Just a few tears while I cleaned the kitchen that didn't need cleaning. But then it hit me, the kind of crying that comes from your gut. That sound you make when you realize something in your life has ended for good. When I finally stopped, it was afternoon. The sun was coming through the blinds, lighting up the dust I hadn't noticed before. Everything felt too quiet. Even the refrigerator hum sounded lonely. I called her again. Straight to voicemail. Called again. Same thing. By the third time, I just left a message saying, "Hey baby, call me when you get a minute." As if we were still normal. As if I didn't already know the truth. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept checking my phone every hour, hoping she'd text. Nothing. Around 3 in the morning, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the wedding photo again. Saved in my downloads, even though I'd sworn I deleted it. I zoomed in on her face. She looked happy, genuinely happy. And I realized something I never thought I'd have to face. Maybe I wasn't part of what made her happy anymore. People like to talk about unconditional love, how it's this pure, endless thing, but what they don't tell you is that unconditional love still hurts like hell when it's not returned. I had spent decades being her everything. Her ride, her nurse, her tutor, her cheerleader, her mother and father combined. I thought love worked like a bank, that the more you put in, the more you'd get back someday. Turns out that's not how it works. Some accounts just close without warning. When the morning light finally came, I got up, made another pot of coffee, and decided not to call her again. If she wanted distance, she'd have it. But deep down, I already knew. This wasn't just about a wedding. This was about something that had been happening for years, quietly, like a slow leak in a roof. I just hadn't noticed it until the whole ceiling finally came down. After that day, I kept thinking about where things started to change. Because it didn't happen overnight, it never does. Love doesn't just snap in half. It fades quietly, like the color of old photos left in the sun. I used to think Hope and I were unbreakable. Just the two of us against the world. When my husband Elijah died, she was only 8. I remember sitting on the porch the day after the funeral, her tiny hand in mine. Both of us staring at the sky like we were waiting for something, a sign, maybe. She looked up at me and said, "Don't cry, Mama. I'll take care of you now." And in that moment, I thought, we'll be okay. I worked myself to the bone to make sure she'd have a better life. 2 cleaning jobs. Sometimes 3, when Christmas came around and folks wanted their house's holiday ready. I'd get home at night so tired, I could barely take off my shoes. But the sound of Hope's laugh, the way she'd run up to me with her school drawings, her little arms wrapping around my waist, that made it all worth it. Every dollar I earned went to her. Dance lessons, school trips, braces, college savings. I'd skip lunch just to tuck away a few more bills in the envelope marked Hope's future. She used to tell me, "Mama, when I get married, you're gonna be my maid of honor." I laughed and told her mothers can't be maids of honor, but she didn't care. "You're gonna be the prettiest one there," she said. I held on to that promise for years, foolishly, maybe like it was a guarantee. The first time I noticed the distance was when she started college. She was the first in our family to go, and I was so proud. I helped her move into the dorm, unpacked her things, made her bed, left notes in her drawers that said, "Don't forget to eat, and I love you more than biscuits." She laughed and said, "Mama, you're so extra." I told her I just didn't want her to forget where she came from. And maybe that's where the problem started. Because, as time went on, she didn't want to remember. College changed her, not in a bad way at first. She started dressing differently, speaking differently. She talked about marketing strategies, business ethics, STARTUP culture, things I didn't understand but tried to listen to anyway. But the way she talked about her new friends, her professors, her network, I started to feel like she was building a new world that didn't have a place for me in it. When I called, sometimes she didn't answer. When she came home, she seemed distracted, like she was somewhere else, even when she was sitting right across from me. She'd say, "Mama, I'm just tired," or "I have a lot going on." So I stopped asking questions. I told myself she was just growing up, that this was what independence looked like. Then she met him, Devin Hayes. The first time I heard his name, I could tell it meant something. Her voice softened when she said it. "He's really smart, Mama. He's from a good family. His dad manages a company, and his mom used to teach literature." I smiled and said, "That's nice, baby," but inside I felt something shift, a quiet ache that I couldn't explain. The first time I met him, I made my best fried chicken, baked mac and cheese, collard greens, and cornbread, my meet the family meal. He was polite, said all the right words, but I saw the way his eyes scanned my living room, lingering on the old furniture, the faded photos on the wall, not judging out loud, but judging all the same. Hope noticed it too. She kept talking fast, explaining everything, like she was embarrassed by our home. That night, after they left, she said, "Mama, you don't have to go overboard next time. Devin's not really into heavy food." Heavy food. That's what she called my cooking, the same food that kept us alive all those years. After that, they came around less, then barely at all. I started getting texts instead of visits. "Love you, Mama," she'd write, with a little heart emoji at the end, like love could fit inside a text bubble. The next big shift came after she got her first job. She started wearing heels and blazers, saying things like "I have to touch base," and "let's circle back." She moved into an apartment in Midtown with Devin. I offered to help them set it up, but she said, "It's okay, Mama. Devin's parents already sent some furniture." When I finally visited, the place looked like something out of a catalog, all neutral colors and glass tables. I brought her a housewarming gift, a quilt I'd made by hand from pieces of her old clothes. She smiled politely, said, "Thanks, Mama," and set it on the couch. I never saw it again. Little by little, the visits stopped. Phone calls turned into texts. Texts turned into silence. And every time I felt that sting, I told myself, this is just how life goes. Kids grow up. They build new lives. They forget to call, but deep down, I knew that wasn't it. Hope hadn't just grown up, she'd outgrown me. The last holiday we spent together was Christmas 2 years ago. I made all her favorites: sweet potato pie, candied yams, ham with pineapple glaze. She showed up late, with Devin in tow, holding a store-bought cheesecake. He said, "We didn't have time to cook. Been so busy." They stayed maybe an hour, 2 tops. The whole time she talked about his family, the Hayeses, their big Christmas parties, their vacation house in Savannah, how they drink champagne instead of sweet tea. When they left, I stood at the door and watched their car pull away, the taillights fading down the street. My kitchen smelled like cinnamon and honey, but the house felt empty. After that night, she didn't come home for holidays anymore. She said Devin's parents had strong family traditions, and they were alternating years. But somehow, it never alternated back to me. By the time she told me she and Devin were engaged, I already knew I wasn't part of the plan. Her voice was cheerful, but her words were vague. "We want something simple, Mama. Nothing big, just close family." I laughed not because it was funny, but because I knew what close family meant. I kept pretending not to notice, pretending I was okay, pretending that maybe she'd surprise me, call me one day and say, "Mama, I can't do this without you." But she didn't. And when I saw that photo, that goddamn Facebook photo, I realized she never intended to. I'd already been erased a long time ago. I just hadn't noticed until then. The first few days after seeing that photo felt like walking through fog. I'd wake up, make my coffee, and just sit there staring at nothing. The same kitchen table, the same mug, the same view out the window, but everything felt different. It was like the whole world had shifted 2 inches to the left. And I couldn't get my footing anymore. I kept checking my phone even though I knew she wasn't going to call. Every time it buzzed, my heart jumped. A scam number, a delivery notice, church announcements, never her. People talk about heartbreak like it's one big crash. But really, it's thousands of tiny cracks that keep spreading no matter how still you stand. I couldn't focus on anything. I'd start cleaning the house, but every object had a story. The kitchen towel she embroidered when she was 12, the dent in the wall from when she threw a ball inside and pretended it wasn't her. The little ceramic angel I bought for her first apartment that she never took. My whole home was a museum of a relationship that apparently no longer existed. At some point, I started questioning myself. Maybe it was my fault. Maybe I was too much, too present, too emotional, too me. When she met Devin's parents, I could tell they were different. Not bad people, just the kind who live in a different kind of air. They talked about investment, portfolios and networking events. I talked about coupons and church potlucks. They smiled politely, but I could see that flicker in their eyes. Pity dressed up as politeness. And Hope must have seen it too. Maybe she decided it was easier to become like them than to keep explaining me. That thought tore me up inside. I remembered the letter she wrote me when she was 18, pink paper. Neat handwriting, little hearts around the edges. It said, "Mama, you're my hero. Everything I am is because of you." I'll never forget that. I found it in an old box while cleaning. The paper was faded, but the ink still there, sharp and painful as ever. I held it to my chest and cried like I hadn't cried since Elijah's funeral. I didn't even realize I still had that much crying left in me. But crying only gets you so far. After a while, you just get tired of hurting. Tired of begging ghosts to come back. On the 4th day, I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Gray hair that needed coloring, wrinkles deeper than I remembered, eyes dull, like someone had turned the light down inside me. And I thought, is this what I've become? A mother who's waiting for a phone call that might never come. That's when something inside me snapped. Not in a dramatic, movie way. More like a slow, steady click, the sound of something locking into place. I realized I'd spent almost 30 years living for someone else. Every decision I made, every dream I put on hold, every extra shift I worked, all of it was for Hope. I told myself it was love, and it was. But it was also fear. Fear that if I ever stopped giving, she'd stop needing me. And in the end, that's exactly what happened anyway. That night, I sat down with a glass of cheap wine. The kind I usually save for holidays. And let myself breathe for the first time in days. The house was quiet, but it didn't feel as heavy anymore. I thought about all those mornings I woke up early to make her breakfast. All those nights I stayed up waiting for her to get home safe. All those sacrifices I made without anyone noticing. I used to think those moments were proof of love. But now, I see they were also proof of who I am. I am someone who loves deeply, works hard, gives everything. And if my daughter can't see that, if she's ashamed of it, that's not my shame to carry anymore. That realization didn't fix the pain. It didn't make me stop missing her. But it gave me a kind of peace, a stubborn, quiet peace that whispered, "You've done enough." The next morning, I woke up before sunrise and went for a walk. The air was cool and smelled like rain. The sky was that pale gray blue that comes right before dawn, and for once, I didn't feel like the world was ending. I stopped at the little diner down the street, the one with the cracked red booths, and ordered pancakes for one. The waitress, Ruby, who's been there since forever, looked surprised to see me. "You're up early, Clara," she said. "Guess I just felt like treating myself," I told her. And I meant it. That was the first morning I didn't cry over the wedding photo. I didn't check my phone for Hope's name. I just sat there, sipping bad coffee and watching the city wake up. For the first time in a long time, I was alone, and somehow, that didn't feel like a punishment. It felt like the beginning of something else. Maybe freedom. Maybe just survival. But whatever it was mine. It was the Saturday after I decided to stop waiting. I'd just finished folding laundry when my phone rang an unfamiliar number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hi, Mama." That voice. Bright, cheerful, like nothing had happened. "Hope," I said, my throat dry. "We're back from our honeymoon," she chirped. "Cabo was amazing. Devin and I want to stop by this afternoon and tell you all about it." Just like that. No apology, no hesitation. As if I hadn't spent 2 weeks drowning in silence. I took a deep breath. "Sure," I said. "What time?" "Around 5, she said. "We'll bring some gifts we got for you." Gifts, like trinkets, could fill the hole she'd dug in me. After we hung up, I just sat there for a while. I didn't cry this time. I didn't even shake. I just felt steady. I cleaned the house, brewed sweet tea, and bought fresh pecan deniches from the bakery down the street. The same kind she used to love when she was little. Old habits die hard, I guess. At 5 on the dot, a car pulled up outside. Devin's, of course. Hope jumped out, looking like a magazine cover tan skin. Beachy hair, a new white sundress. Devin followed, polite smile plastered on his face. "Mama," she said, running up to hug me. "I missed you." I hugged her back, but it wasn't the same. There was a stiffness in my arms, a quiet restraint. Her perfume smelled expensive, foreign, almost sterile. They came inside. I poured tea, set out the pastries, and sat across from them in my small living room. Hope kept chatting, filling the silence with stories about the resort. The beaches, the food. Devin nodded along, occasionally throwing in a "yeah, it was beautiful." I let them talk. I smiled in all the right places. But inside, I was just watching her. Studying this woman who looked like my daughter but didn't feel like her. Finally, I said, "So, tell me about the wedding." Hope froze for a split second, then forced a smile. "Oh, Mama, it was perfect. Just small, simple. Exactly what we wanted." "Where was it?" I asked. "A little chapel in Decatur. Really cute." "Who was there?" "Just us. And Devin's parents." I nodded slowly, took a sip of my tea. "So no one from my side." She shifted in her seat. "It wasn't like that, Mama. It all happened so fast. We didn't have time to plan a big ceremony." "Hope," I said quietly, "you had time to pick a dress, a venue, a photographer, a honeymoon. You had time for everything except your own mother." Her eyes widened a little, as if she hadn't expected me to say it out loud. Devin cleared his throat, probably wishing he was anywhere else. "Mama, please," she said softly, "I didn't mean to hurt you. It was just, we wanted something private." "Private," I repeated. "You mean convenient. You didn't want me there because I don't fit into your new world. I clean houses for a living. And your new family dines with wine glasses that cost more than my week's groceries." She looked down. "It's not like that." "Then tell me how it is," I said, my voice shaking a little. But not from weakness, from holding back everything I'd wanted to say for years. "Because I gave you everything. Hope, I worked until my bones ached so you could have a better life. I dreamed of this day for you, of helping you pick the dress, holding your flowers, crying in the front row. And instead, I found out like a stranger scrolling Facebook. The silence that followed was thick. The only sound was the ticking clock on the wall. Hope's eyes filled with tears. "Mama, I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't think it would hurt you this much." "That's the problem," I said quietly. "You didn't think about me at all." For a long time, none of us spoke. Devon reached for her hand, but she didn't take it. Her eyes stayed on me full of guilt, confusion, maybe even shame. Finally, she said, "Can we start over?" I smiled, but it wasn't the smile of a woman about to forgive. It was the kind of smile that comes after you've finally stopped expecting anything. "Start over," I said softly. "Baby, I don't think we can. I love you, I always will. But I can't keep chasing someone who keeps walking away." Her tears fell then, quiet and genuine. For the first time, I saw the little girl she used to be. The one who used to hold my hand and promise she'd never leave me. Devon looked uncomfortable, shifting in his chair. "Maybe we should go," he said. Hope wiped her face and nodded. She stood up, hesitated, and then hugged me tighter this time. "I really am sorry, Mama." "I know," I said. "And I hope one day you understand what it took for me to let you go." They left soon after. I stood by the window, watching their car disappear down the street. The house went quiet again, but it didn't feel empty this time. Just still. I went to the kitchen, poured myself another glass of sweet tea, and sat back down at the table. The sun was setting, painting everything in a soft orange glow. For the first time, I didn't reach for my phone. I didn't wait for her to call. I didn't replay the conversation or wonder what I could have said differently. I just sat there, breathing. Because maybe the hardest thing about being a mother isn't the loving. It's learning when to stop holding on so tightly. And in that quiet evening light, I finally understood something I should have learned long ago. Love doesn't always mean staying. Sometimes, it means walking away with your dignity intact. And that's exactly what I did. It's been 6 months since that afternoon. Hope calls sometimes. I answer when I can. We talk about the weather, her job, the new house she and Devon bought. Nothing heavy, just enough to be polite. I still keep her childhood photos in a box under my bed, not because I can't let go, but because some memories deserve a quiet place to rest. My life isn't big or fancy. I still clean houses. Still drink my coffee at the same kitchen table every morning. But something's different now. I don't check my phone waiting for her name to light up. I don't replay old conversations in my head. The silence doesn't hurt like it used to. It just is. And that's the strange thing about heartbreak. One day you wake up, and it's not gone. But it's softer, manageable, like an old scar you've learned to live with. Sometimes, when I pass a bridal shop downtown, I stop for a second, look at the dresses in the window, and smile. Not because I'm sad, but because I know I did my part. I raised my daughter. I loved her with everything I had. And now, for the first time in my life, I'm learning how to love myself, too.